Oh, it was a long shot, and yet, what's life all about? If you don't step out there a little bit once in a while, you may never get out there in the first place.
In an Iowa farmer's simple letter, now 3 decades old, you'll find the roots of a dream that grew into a monumental event.
To His Holiness Pope John Paul II, we here in St. Mary's, Iowa, were delighted to hear of your proposed visit to the Midwest.
In June 1979, Joe Hayes was a young farmer with a growing family and a heart for the land. He believed the Pope needed to see America's heartland.
It got announced that the letter had been released and was hand couriered to the Vatican, which is kind of neat. It didn't go by pigeon. It had a special hand on it, which is kind of neat.
A hand-delivered, handwritten letter to His Holiness that Monsignor Steve Orr still remembers.
Bishop Dingman had a kind of a philosophy of life. He says, the best ideas come from the little people. And Joe Hayes came up to him one day and said, Bishop, I'm one of the little people. I think the Pope should come to Des Moines.
Joe Hayes' not-so-little dream was well received by the Vatican. The Pope wanted to see rural America.
I think it just struck a chord in his own experience, his own life, that it felt more like kind of the communities that he was raised in back in Poland.
Urbandale, Iowa's Mayor E.J. Giovanetti found it hard to believe at first. The Pope coming to Iowa. He thought it was a practical joke.
I called the chief of police and I said, Chief, do you know anything about the Pope coming to Urbandale? And he said, yeah, we've been contacted by the Secret Service. My reaction was, oh my God, this is for real.
With little time to spare between July and October's papal visit, a large and diverse community came together.
There's a lot of cooperation, a lot of people. I mean, all over the state and all over the country, and all through the church.
One church that had to get ready was St. Patrick's Irish Settlement, 20 miles southwest of Des Moines. John and Marilyn Connor live nearby and take care of St. Patrick's.
We're kind of stunned at first, to think that he was actually going to come here.
When John was little, his mom made him tidy things before company came. But his childhood grumbling actually predicted the future.
And he would say to her, well, who do you think is coming, the Pope? Well, I told him, after this happened, I said, see, she's going to have the last word after all.
The entire community pitched in, and St. Patrick's was ready when the Pope's helicopter, Angel 1, literally landed in the Connors' backyard.
To see that helicopter, we met him when he got out of the helicopter, but to see it circling overhead and to know who was in it and where he was headed for, was something that'd be hard to ever forget. And then, like Marilyn said, see him walk down the aisle, and it just bring tears to your eyes when he touched all the kids, and stuff. It would just be hard. You couldn't forget it.
The Pope made his way down the aisle, shaking hands and talking to the children.
Then he came up to the front, and he said a prayer, and then he gave his talk, and he did some ad-libbing in that talk in English, which was great, and then gave us another blessing and made his way out of the church.
The Pope then made his way to Living History Farms, where more than 300,000 people waited. Mayor Giovanetti vividly recalls the Pope's presence when his daughter handed the Pope a key to the city.
It was very, very powerful. It was captivating, but it wasn't in that, it was more in a quiet, peaceful, serene sense. It wasn't, the skyrocket kind of excitement that, we think we might have.
As a seminarian in the Des Moines Diocese back then, Father Bud Grant was asked to be an acolyte on stage.
It was pretty exciting, and I didn't really know what it meant, except that that day it turned out that I was usually right behind the Holy Father's shoulder, never more than about 15 yards away from him during the whole time. So it was pretty exciting. I kind of felt special.
The land is God's gift.
On a chilly October afternoon, the Pope used his homily to speak about agriculture and land stewardship.
He did speak about the gifts of the land and of its resources, our responsibilities to use those resources for feeding the world.
The service's lector, Maria Roseman, was moved by the Pope's words.
He spoke of land stewardship. He encouraged it. He challenged us for it. And we've spent a lifetime basically taking him up on that challenge.
Rosamond sought out the Pope during his visit. A year earlier, she had married into farming, but on that October day, she was truly part of the family.
He extended his hand to me and said, "Polska?" And I said, "Yeah, and I'm a farmer." And he said, "God bless you." And I blurted out, "I am a farmer," which probably, was my absolute first time that I said ever, "I'm a farmer."
Standing on an organic farm in Heartland, Iowa that Rosamond and her husband own, she believes the Pope's message from 30 years ago is still true today.
Issues of land stewardship aren't just Catholic issues. Issues of treating your neighbor well go beyond Catholicism.
That message from 30 years ago has inspired the Des Moines Diocese, the National Catholic Rural Life Conference, and Living History Farms to commemorate Pope John Paul II's visit to rural America. That event will be held in West Des Moines this October 2nd and 3rd.
So why should people come? To be reminded of what we're supposed to be doing.
Joe Hayes knows it all goes back to his letter. Simple words that led to a powerful visit and timeless message.
A revisiting of the issues and some of the things that were taking place at the time. You'll see a little more sprinklings, I think, of some of the importance of what was done and said 30 years ago.
To all of you who are farmers,
So join us as we take a fresh look back at an extraordinary event, but also look forward and explore the meaning of the Pope's message to us today to be good stewards of God's land.